This episode is sponsored by Kinsta. Between juggling client meetings, managing your website, and keeping up with everyday tasks, who has the time to stress out about website security? Well, with Kinsta, the technical stuff is taken care of, so you can focus on what you do best. Kinsta provides managed hosting for WordPress, offering lightning-fast load times, top-tier security, and unmatched human-only customer support. Whether you're a business owner, web developer, or running a digital agency, Kinsta makes managing your website easy and efficient. Kinsta provides enterprise-grade security, being one of the few hosting providers for WordPress with SOC 2 and other certifications, guaranteeing the highest level of security for your website. Thanks to their unlimited free expert-led migrations, Kinsta ensures a smooth transition for you from other hosting providers. Customers have reported 200% faster load times post-migration to their platform. What I find cool about Kinsta is their fast and reliable customer service and premium features that are included at no extra cost. Ready to experience Kinsta's hosting for yourself? Get your first month free when you sign up at kinsta.com today. That's KINSTA.com. Hey, Code Story listeners, Noah here. A quick thanks for listening to the show. Thank you. I'm grateful for your listenership and hope you learned something from each of my chats with these tech leaders. I know that I certainly have. If you are a regular subscriber to the pod, do me a quick favor. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps others find the show. And if you're new to the show, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And one more thing. If you are so inclined, consider supporting the show financially by going over to patreon.com/codestory. For the price of a coffee or a couple of coffees a month, you'd be making a big difference. As we enter into the new year, I wanted to do a throwback to another one of our favorite episodes. The interview with Jonathan Perichon, co-founder and CTO of Checkr. Please enjoy.
I was pretty much a nerd since as long as I can remember. At heart, we are a technology company. Every challenges in the industry, we tackled it with technology-first approach. It was our first time being managers. So you can imagine we made our own mistakes. The day I don't learn anymore, I think probably not a good sign. The most important was to hire a great culture fit, especially on the humility side.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries who share in the critical moments of what it takes to change an industry and build and lead a team that has your back. I'm your host, Noah Lappart, and today how Jonathan Perichon was introduced to the pains of background checks and decided to make it better with an API. All this and more on Code Story. Through a chance internship in LA, Jonathan Perichon made his way from France to the United States. In doing so, he fell in love with the culture and opportunity of Silicon Valley. After working for a startup requiring background checks for its users, he saw firsthand how antiquated and slow the process can be. After about 6 months, he and his co-founders set off to build an API-driven solution, facilitating the submission, reporting, and workflow of background checks for candidate workers, and much, much more. I would love to learn more about you, Jonathan. Tell me how you got started and founded Checkr.
So as you can hear it from my accent, I'm from France. I grew up in a small town in the countryside called Vichy. I did my studies there. I was pretty much a nerd since as long as I can remember. So it was a no-brainer to study computer science back home, and then moved to LA for kind of an experiment, an internship. Loved the life there, and that's how I kind of migrated to the US. So it's been about 6-7 years now. Yeah, so with my co-founder Daniel, a good friend as well, We used to work at an on-demand delivery company called Deliv in the Bay Area. And, we were recruiting hundreds of delivery drivers every week. We are doing background checks on them. So that was really our first exposure to the background check industry. We are both coming from France. In France, actually, there's no background checks. So we didn't even know it was a word. So we had to learn a lot. And what we've noticed back then at Deliv is the kind of current solutions were really archaic. There was no good technology. There was no good APIs. It was very kind of older generation products. So that's kind of what started to spark our interest, especially on the API side. We love simple, well-designed APIs as big nerds. And so seeing, hundreds of page of SOAP API on a Word document from the industry was really shocking. And it was really the thing that pushed us to look into this industry.
Is Daniel a tech background guy as well, or is he more on the product side?
Yeah, he has a tech background as well. I think he studied electrical engineering, but we are both software engineers at a couple companies, couple startups, and we built the initial product together.
When you were working at Deliv, tell me a little bit about Deliv. So it's on-demand delivery. What was being delivered?
Yeah, so it was really this concept of delivering anything from the mall to your home. So let's say you go shopping in the afternoon, you get a bunch of boxes, a bunch of bags, but you don't have a car. So it was a service to allow people to go shopping in person and receive their package delivered at home the same day. It was same-day delivery. Back then it was a pretty small startup. I think they are doing really well, as far as I can tell on the news. They're still doing well.
So you're at Deliv. You see firsthand the gaps in the background check industry. You and Daniel put your heads together and decide to take it on. Tell me about the MVP. How long did it take to build? What tools did you start out using? Things like that.
The MVP was, it makes me laugh because for MVP, our goal was really to go as fast as we could. And you have to really fake it with the MVP. So I remember, for example, the first really MVP, we built kind of the UI, the front end, the API. But then behind the scene, we were manually requesting background checks using like a different background check company. We were hiding all the operations. It looked automated, but behind the scene, it was not.
What did you put in front of the end users face then? Was it like just a website with a form, or was it something a little more complicated than that?
So initially we built an API because that was what we wanted to do. Turns out our first customers didn't want an API yet. And so we built a simple form so that this person who was leading operations team could enter consumer information and starting to invite consumers to fill in their information as well. So it was really a form. There is a lot of kind of legal jargon and consents and disclosures. So that was a bit difficult, to actually get in place because we are only two. We don't have a legal team. So we had to dig a bit there.
So you have this MVP, you've built it, and it's basically a front for a manual process behind it. Where did you take it from there, and what sort of decisions did you have to make after that?
For us at Checkr, we got lucky that in terms of timing, I believe we are really lucky because of the on-demand economy boom. And so when we started in 2014, more and more on-demand economy were growing and scaling or just being created at that time. And so there was a big need for background checks for those companies that were scaling and hiring contractors. And so pretty early on, actually, we had lot of interest from these companies, and so we had to work really hard. Like the good thing is we knew what to build because we had a lot of customer requests. So that led to having good insight on what we needed to build. The scary part is there was a lot. And so there was a lot of demand, a lot of different type of customers and partners in the on-demand space. But overall, I see this as a good problem to have. Getting customers really early on really pushed us to build the right product and get to scale pretty quickly.
What named technologies are you using? Are you using like a Ruby on Rails, or are you using .NET stack, or are you using Node? What tech are you using?
We use Ruby mostly as a language. We discussed we didn't want to use Rails at the time because Rails was coming with kind of all the UI dependencies as well. So it was backend and UI, and we really wanted to decouple the UI from the backend. So we ended up using Sinatra, which is a similar framework. You have to do a bit more manual setup, but at the end of the day, it's pretty similar. For the front end, we started with Angular. We are moving to React these days. And one thing that, as engineers, when we started, we wanted to do microservices from the get-go. Turns out it's difficult as you want to go really fast, and I think we got some in place. We had a vision, but some of the services we wanted to build back then still haven't been built yet. So and we are thinking about it. So
the customers or the clients that came on and used Checkr, what's the split between sort of pure API usage versus kind of one-off requests? Is it primarily API versus the other?
I would say we have three main use cases. We have large customers, and those companies often do API integration because they want to build more custom flows. They want to have the integration from their mobile app or from their website. So like this, for example, applicants don't have to enter their information twice. So we see a lot of API usage there, like for companies that have the bigger scale. Then you have smaller companies. We have actually a long tail of smaller businesses and mid-market. And for those companies, typically they don't have an engineering team dedicated on background checks. So they like to use our UI solutions and don't build against the API. But it's still important, so the API is really useful to request background checks, but then we have very strong kind of legal and adjudication workflows. Those live in our dashboard, and even our largest customers use those in our own dashboard.
What do you think is the biggest differentiating factor for Checkr? There's a handful of background check vendors out there. Some of them have some APIs, but what makes Checkr, in your mind and in your pitch, what makes Checkr the best one out there?
I mean, at heart, we are a technology company. Every challenges in the industry, we tackled it with technology-first approach, which I think is the approach that makes us really appealing. For example, most of our competition really look at every single criminal record that comes in and being reported to classify, and they have offshore teams to look at them, which had delays. You can have error mistakes, where for us we use best-in-class ML to classify charges and move forward faster, like almost instantly with the results. That's one use cases. I think overall, because we're a technology company, we focus on accuracy of the data. We focus on time and automation, so that turnaround times go down, and things are more automated. And I think that's kind of the broader approach.
How did you go about building your team? So started out you and Daniel, and then you grew, you had success. I'm sure you got to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, we need people to help us. How did you choose the right people to come and join you?
I'm laughing because with Daniel, it was our first time being managers. So you can imagine we made our own mistakes there. Overall, when we started to hire people, I think we are pretty good at designing interviews. The most important was to hire a great culture fit, especially on the humility side. We had a small team. You want really humble people that have great, at least that was our view on it. So humility was important and grit was important, so that we work well as a small team. And so initially, so that was our kind of criteria. So no A star all. Even if you're the best engineer, best in class, if you're not on board and not nice, you wouldn't be joining the team. No, you have to think at scale. Initially we were interviewing everyone, so that was easier. And then you have to kind of put in place frameworks so that team that hire people have the same approach. And I think scaling the culture is definitely the most difficult, yet the most impactful for the company. And I think we've done fairly well.
That's interesting. So you mentioned scaling the culture being a challenge and really important. There's two things, obviously, in a tech startup, scaling the technology and scaling the culture. So I would ask, how did you go about both of those things, starting with the culture, since you just mentioned that, but then also, how did you build the technology to scale?
So on culture, I think the biggest move for us was going from us interviewing everyone for any rec to really sitting down with the team, defining our culture and core values, and designing kind of how we evaluate for these core values during interview, but also during our performance and management process. And so I think compared to a lot of companies, we learn from mistakes that other companies have done. One of the recurrent mistakes is not defining your culture early enough. And I think that's something we've done pretty early on, like defining what are our core values and really implementing evaluation of those during our interview process. So that was one of the most impactful thing that we've done for the company to scale the culture. On the technology side, it's hard to get a one-line answer on this one. One of the biggest challenge for us at Checkr is kind of the domain complexity. So the background check, from an end user perspective, it should be simple. It should be input, and I get an output, which is a report. But behind the scene, we have to hide a lot of complex requirements, a lot of complex workflows, a lot of domain logic. And sometimes it's different for a specific city, for a specific county, for a specific type of customer. And so I would say for us, the biggest challenge is really to make all this complexity as simple as we can, which is not always easy. And so, for example, we have to be super thoughtful about what do we want to be able to customize versus not customized. And how do we design our software and workflows so that we anticipate future requirements, future workflows. I would say that's definitely one of the biggest challenge for us. I think in terms of pure scale, so what I like to say to engineers, we don't have petascale like some of the largest tech companies in the Bay Area. but we have enough scale to be, to be present, and we have to be thoughtful about it for everything we do. We do millions of background checks every month. We have hundreds of millions of criminal records. We have to design around it. But I think the most challenging is really how do we scale and simplify the business logic and the domain.
Tell me about some of the mistakes you made along the way. How'd you react to them? What'd you learn?
We've done a fair amount of mistakes. I think if you don't make mistakes, that means you don't go fast enough. At the end of the day, you're a man, so you're still gonna make mistakes anyway. We made some early mistakes. Some early mistakes where we chose to use MongoDB as main data store for all our data models. We quickly found out that it was not working well. Like our usage of MongoDB was not the right fit for all. It was great for some use cases, but for some more relational use cases, it was really not working and not scaling. So we had to quickly migrate some of the things over on the MySQL side. That was like a first design mistake, I would say. Then I can think of mistake we've done in terms of prioritization, and those are painful because as you scale the team, we are still understaffed, but we are even more understaffed back then. And so prioritization mistakes really bites you on how fast you can go. And so, for example, us building the full API first and not building the UI was kind of eye-opening because we built what we wanted to build and not what the customer wanted. And so I think we learned that. The good thing is early mistakes, most of the time you can fix pretty quickly. But then the more the product grows, the more the team grows, the harder it gets, I think. But I think now we are pretty customer-centric, and we spend a lot of time with customers, so I don't think a mistake like this can happen again.
What does the future look like for the product and for the team?
For the team, overall our business is going really well. We have tremendous growth. We have a lot of interested potential customers. We have a lot of customers coming on board. Our existing customers are growing. So overall, there's a lot of business traction. And so our current focus is really to scale our initial insight that we apply to most on-demand companies to the mainstream industry of enterprise in the US. So really going enterprise is our focus, which means for our product we have some kind of stopgap capabilities that we are building. At scale you need to build SSO, and there's not much to do about it. And so one big focus is really being product ready for the enterprise. And on the flip side of that is keep innovating in the industry. As a tech company, that's how we make the most difference. And we want to make sure to make progress on both innovation and product capabilities for go-to-market strategy. To do that, we are scaling the team. We are doubling every year pretty much. We're opening up an office in Denver this year. So I'm personally excited about this one. Yeah, on my end, I don't write code anymore. And so it's really about helping to scale the team and a lot of recruiting so that we can achieve our mission.
You said your hands are out of the code now. You're doing more leadership now. What's next for you personally?
Yeah, so at Checkr, I think it will resonate with a lot of technical founders. As technical founder, your role really changes as the company grows. And so you go from, at least I went from, writing every single product features to do half of the features and building the team, becoming a first-time manager, to building features all together and starting to manage managers, then to manage directors. And so I had to scale with the organization. And that's really rewarding personally because, I learn a ton every day, which is, I think, key for me. Like the day I don't learn anymore, I think it's probably not a good sign. I cannot switch personally between leadership and management and technical leadership. I think, personally, I really enjoy technical aspects of things. So I like to be involved in architecture and kind of designing a system for the long run. And so, like in the past 5 years, I've been back and forth in, full-time managers and doing 10 interviews a day to more hands-on and more architect type function. I mean, at the end of the day, I like doing both. I think it's good for me to go a bit back and forth and really help the company and the organization where I can be impactful. I can do anything as long as I can be impactful. I will be happy.
If you could go back to the beginning when you started, what would you do differently, or what sort of different avenue would you consider taking?
As a company, because we have done fairly well, I don't know if there's a big thing that, I go back in time, and if anything, and it's more as us with Daniel as being founder of the company, I think finding the roles that are really required and really important to get right early on and find the right people for those roles. I think we're a bit slow on this front. And so for example, it took us a while to hire our first product manager. And I think it took us a bit too long, which kind of made the product evolution slow down during this period of search. And so I think as founders, you really have to be super mindful about when the company is ready to scale, like when can you hire to replace something that you're doing as a founder. I think even me personally, I love writing code and building products. And I think I need to think more and more about how to scale myself and really mentor the team. And I cannot review every single pull request, for example. This is just not reasonable. So how do I scale myself to educate the team, to put the right tools in place? And I think really about scaling, I think we've done some good learnings there.
Who do you look up to as far as a CTO, architect, or tech person, and why do you look up to them?
I'm really a big fan of Werner Vogels, the CTO of Amazon. I don't know him personally, but just I think he really changed the industry. AWS, I think the change that he brought to this industry is so drastic. I'm a big fan of him, and also I really like his presence during when he does talks and at conference. So yeah, I would say that's my number one. And he's great because he's super technical, super charismatic, and he's brought a ton to the industry as a whole.
If you could go back, or if you could give some advice to someone who's just starting out where you started, or is a little bit earlier on in their tech career or startup career, what advice would you give them?
For us, one thing that was super key is really to go as fast as we could on everything we are doing. I mean, the right pendulum is to go as fast as you can go without causing issues or without causing pain in the product. But really trying to know what corners to cut was really important. I think typically like technical founders are perfectionists about the product they build. And so it's important to be okay with not being 100% perfect. and be confident that 90% perfect is still better than previous existing solutions, and going with customers and really evolving with customers' feedback. My point is, if you spend too much building perfection on your own, what you're missing or the world customer validation, which is the most important. So being super iterative, not being afraid of not being 100%, and really taking customer feedback.
Jonathan, thank you for being on Code Story today. Thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks, Noah. I enjoyed our chat.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is a production of TouchTap LLC and is hosted and produced by Noah Laubhart, co-produced and edited by George Macharko. Special thanks to Deanna Chapman and Stephanie Campisi for their promotional support. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Breaker, or the podcasting app of your choice. Make sure to check us out at codestory.co or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.